Recently, following the death of Brad Pitt's mother, international public opinion has once again been stirred by allegations that Angelina Jolie kept the children away from their father, even during the final days before her sudden passing, something Brad described as the most heartbreaking part of everything he has ever gone through. And there is one name that has left the public both curious and deeply moved: Knox Jolie-Pitt. He is the only son of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, once especially cherished by his paternal grandparents, and a familiar face in the rare, happy photographs of the entire family together. Yet now, at 17, Knox has grown into a 6'1" young man with movie star looks. But behind his eyes lies a sadness that's hard to put into words. Just one glance at them is enough to sense untold stories of growing up distant from his father, of family moments lost forever, and of a boy forced to come of age between two opposing worlds. The question remains: what truly happened within the Jolie-Pitt family? And why, even in the very last moments of farewell, could that distance not be bridged? Knox Jolie-Pitt, the 6'1" heartthrob son of Brad Pitt, whose eyes alone can stir deep sympathy. Mention his name, and most people will instantly picture a teenager born into the blinding spotlight of Hollywood royalty, the biological son of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, two stars once regarded as global icons of beauty, talent, and influence. But if you stop at the label, child of celebrities, you'll miss the real story unfolding behind the scenes. A story not only about a boy growing up, but also about the crushing weight of media attention, the pressures of a public image, and the journey of finding oneself in a world where every step is scrutinized. Knox's appeal goes beyond conventional handsomeness. At 6'1", with a face that blends Brad's masculine features and Angelina's refined elegance, he turns heads. Yet in his eyes, there's something that makes people ache for him. It's a gaze that feels older than his years, tinged with a loneliness outsiders can't easily explain. To understand why a boy of just 16 to 17 could carry such a complex presence, we have to look back at the Jolie-Pitt family's last decade. Once hailed as Hollywood's perfect family, they had 6 children, 3 biological and 3 adopted from different countries. But the high-profile divorce of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in 2016 shattered that picture-perfect image. In the midst of lawsuits, custody battles, and public accusations, the 6 children suddenly became the focus of intense global media attention. At the time, Knox and his twin sister Vivienne were only 8, an age when children should be concerned with school, play, and innocent dreams. Instead, they were pulled into the very public world of adult disputes, where every news story came packaged with waves of harsh comments, speculation, and invasive analysis. That raises a troubling question. How can a child grow up normally when the entire world is watching their every facial expression? Psychologists have a term for this: the golden cage effect, where you live surrounded by wealth, protection, and admiration, yet are stripped of privacy and personal freedom. For Knox, this effect is magnified by the sheer symbolism of his parents. Brad Pitt is not just a movie star but an emblem of masculinity, while Angelina Jolie stands as a beauty and humanitarian icon. Inheriting the genes of 2 people at the top of the world is both a blessing and a burden. People expect Knox to surpass his father's looks as he matures, to shine if he steps into the entertainment industry, and to live a flawless life. But has anyone asked what Knox truly wants? Has anyone noticed that behind the perfect height and cinematic face is a young man trying to form his own identity in a world that has already defined him? The pressure becomes even clearer when comparing him to his siblings. Maddox, the eldest adopted son, has long kept his distance from Brad Pitt and chosen to study and live far from Hollywood. Pax Thien, adopted from Vietnam, is private, but has shown signs of publicly pushing back against his adoptive father. Zahara has recently begun making waves in academic and social causes. Vivienne, Knox's twin sister, is often seen beside Angelina, involved in artistic projects. Knox, however, maintains a far lower profile: no interviews, no public activities, and only occasional sightings via paparazzi lenses. This has fueled 2 theories. Either he is being closely protected from the media, or he himself has chosen to stay out of the spotlight. In either case, the result is the same. Knox is forging his own path, but that path still lies under the enormous shadow of his family name. That "eyes that make people ache" description isn't just a sentimental reaction from photo viewers. Body language experts point out that Knox often looks downward or avoids direct contact with the camera, sometimes offering a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. These may be signs of caution or fatigue from constant attention. In fact, many children of celebrities, from Michael Jackson's to Johnny Depp's, have admitted they learned to hide their real emotions in public, because any expression could be clipped, exaggerated, or misinterpreted. Knox lives in such an environment, and that demands a level of self-management far beyond his age. What's more, Knox is now at a pivotal stage, what psychologists call the identity formation period. This is when teenagers typically experiment with style, opinions, and relationships to answer the question, who am I in this world? But for Knox, every experiment could be captured, analyzed, and permanently archived online. This turns each step he takes into a calculated move, rather than the natural trial and error of growing up. The real question now isn't, will Knox grow taller, or will he be more handsome than Brad Pitt? It's, how will he shape his own identity in a world eager to label him before he's had the chance to decide for himself? That's the true challenge. And if we dare to look deeper into his eyes that hold both quiet strength and unspoken contemplation, perhaps we'll begin to understand. Recently, following the death of Brad Pitt's mother, Angelina Jolie has once again faced allegations of keeping the children away from their father in the period before his mother's sudden passing, something Brad has described as the most heartbreaking part. The news has immediately triggered a wave of heated debate. Is this merely a private detail in the Jolie-Pitt family tragedy, or is it part of a bigger picture about custody battles, relationships between divorced parents, and the long-term psychological impact on children? And looking at the broader context, the most important question is no longer who's right and who's wrong in a personal relationship, but rather, who should have the right to shape a child's relationship and attachment to a parent after divorce, the court, the media, or the children themselves? The story begins with an irreplaceable loss: the death of Jane Pitt, Brad Pitt's mother, who was a vital source of emotional support not only for Brad, but also for her grandchildren. Sources close to the family revealed that, in the final months of her life, Jane rarely saw her grandchildren, something believed to be a direct result of the distance between Brad and his children following the couple's highly publicized divorce in 2016. Brad had repeatedly expressed his wish to spend more time with his children, but was met with obstacles from legal restrictions and what was described as Angelina's lack of cooperation. The accusations reached a peak recently, with claims that Angelina kept the children from seeing their father, even during the sensitive period when his mother was gravely ill. To understand the gravity of this, it's important to recall that the Jolie-Pitt divorce was not only the breakup of one of Hollywood's most powerful couples, but also a years-long custody battle riddled with mutual accusations. Angelina once accused Brad of verbal and physical abuse during a 2016 flight, allegations Brad has denied and for which he was never charged. Still, that incident marked a turning point that tilted custody arrangements in Angelina's favor. For years, Brad has reportedly only been able to see his children on limited, supervised visits. On paper, he is still their father. In reality, he cannot freely be part of their everyday lives. Placed in a wider societal context, Brad's situation is far from unique. Studies in the US and Europe show that in contested divorces, custody is more often awarded to the mother, especially when allegations of abuse or harmful behavior are present, even if those claims have not been fully proven. This creates a fragile balance. The law prioritizes protecting children, but can sometimes result in the effective severing of their relationship with the non-custodial parent. In such cases, the best interests of the child becomes a vague concept, because who exactly gets to define it? The issue grows more sensitive when intertwined with media influence and public image. Brad Pitt is a global star. Any shift in his private life is magnified and dissected under millions of watchful eyes. Angelina Jolie, for her part, has long been framed by international media as the strong, protective mother. When one parent controls most of the children's time, they also, by default, control the narrative, the memories, and even the children's perception of the other parent. This can lead to what psychologists call parental alienation, a phenomenon where children distance themselves from one parent due to the influence of the other, sometimes being led to believe that the parent is dangerous or unworthy, even without direct personal experience of such harm. If the allegation that Angelina kept the children away from Brad even before his mother's death is true, then this is not merely a family dispute. It is a textbook example of how custody arrangements can be wielded as a form of power. Imagine the emotional toll. Brad, grieving his mother, is denied the presence of his children in that moment of loss. The children, in turn, are deprived of a final connection with their grandmother, a relationship no one can replace. In family psychology, this kind of double loss, losing a loved one while also missing the presence of a parent, can create an emotional void that lasts for years, even a lifetime. Yet from another angle, one must ask, did Angelina act out of a genuine desire to protect her children, or was this a product of her personal conflict with Brad? In similar cases, the answer is rarely clear. Many parents believe they are shielding their children from what they perceive as a toxic environment, but that very overprotection can itself inflict psychological harm, shaping a distorted view of family relationships. The danger is that these wounds often surface only when the child becomes an adult and is able to look back, at a point when it's too late to repair what's been lost. The death of Brad Pitt's mother, paired with these renewed accusations, has reignited a larger debate. In today's global media age, who really controls the right to family connection after divorce? Is it the courts, bound by slow and rigid legal procedures? The media, with its power to shape public perception? Or the parents themselves, who can turn custody into a tool for asserting dominance? And in the midst of these forces, where does the child truly stand? The most heartbreaking part is not simply that Brad Pitt missed the chance to have his children by his side to say goodbye to his mother. The most heartbreaking part is that we are witnessing a recurring pattern, where divorce doesn't just end a marriage, but also fractures and manages the parent-child bond as if it were an asset to be fought over. And when this happens in a famous family, it not only affects those directly involved, but also shapes the way the public views the role of parents after divorce.